Alright, so it's time now to talk about how to remove and apply your Jamberry nails. I'm going to start with the removal first. So there are a few different ways you can do it. My favorite way is actually to remove them either in the shower, right after I get out of the shower, or after I do the dishes and submerge my hands in warm water. That's when the adhesive is most pliable. It's going to be the easiest to remove. So I just went and I soaked my hand in some warm water for a couple minutes. And then what I do is I get an alcohol swab ready. You could also use a cotton ball soaked in olive oil, something that will help remove the adhesive gently. You don't want to just pull it off. You don't want to just peel up a corner and yank it off because you can do damage to your nail. So what you do is you get an orange stick, or you could use your thumbnail or something else like that, and you just break the seal. You just want to lift up a little corner. So hopefully you can kind of see that there. I've lifted up the corner, and then I'm going to take my alcohol swab and I'm going to go under that corner, and I'm just going to gently work it. Just going to gently work back and forth, and you can feel it starting to come up and release. Let's see. This one's still pretty well on there. I should have soaked my hands for an extra minute or two. But almost got it. There we go. So you can see, I just took it right off there with the alcohol swab. Dry it off a little bit. It didn't damage the nail. There's a little bit of adhesive left, so I'd go and wash your hands before you start the application process again. To prep your nails for application, you're going to want to clean your nails really well. I like to start by using a cuticle pusher and pushing back my cuticles. So you're just kind of pushing back all the way around on the sides too. Push it way back, get it clean like that. And then you want to look at the surface and you want to see if you need to do any buffing. You would want to buff if you have an uneven nail surface, or if you can see any little bits of skin or cuticle left, you can use a buffer block like that and just kind of smooth it out. And taking the couple minutes to do the prep, it's really, really worth it to get a nice, good, tight seal on your wraps. So you do that. You can trim your nails a little bit, but I would actually recommend waiting until the end, because when you put your wraps on, you're going to either file or clip the ends of your nail off anyways. So if you don't want to lose length, then I would just leave it like that. So once you have your nails all clean and the surface smooth, you want to go and wash your hands and use dish soap. And if you find that you have really oily nails, there are a couple extra little steps that you can take, because like our hair and our skin, our nails are unique to us. So you may need a little extra, or you may need just something a little bit different than the instructions that you'll find on the Jamberry website. So wash your hands. Something like a grease cutting dish soap is really, really helpful. And then dry your hands. I have my little mini heater on. I don't know if you could hear it, but I got the little mini heater on. Dry your hands and then swipe your nails with, I'll get out another alcohol swab. You can use alcohol swabs. You can use straight acetone. If you find that your nail beds are oily, you can use vinegar. And another tip, if you're finding that the wraps aren't sticking very well, it could be a pH problem, which I am no scientist, so all I can tell you is what I've heard from other people, that soaking your hands, your nails, in a couple of minutes, for a couple of minutes in black tea can actually help change the pH of your nail and make it more receptive to the wrap. So that's another little tip or trick you can use. So now, let's see, I guess I don't need to do all my nails, I'm just going to show you one. So you do the alcohol there. So now my nail is ready. It is ready for the wrap. So you're going to take your sheet of wraps and hold it up and figure out which one works for your nail. So you can see, actually it's easier for me if I put it down like that. So there's the one that I like. So when you're holding up, another tip is don't err on the side of small instead of large. If you're choosing between two and you're not really sure, it's better to be a little bit small, because you don't want the wraps to touch your cuticles or the skin around your fingernails at all. That impairs its ability to seal. You'll be more likely to get lifting and rippling around the edges. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about that after I get going and get this on here. So I picked the one I want. I like to take my orange stick and you kind of fold You fold it so that you can get underneath the wrap there. You roll your orange stick under the wrap. And I like to trim it just a little bit longer than I'm going to need, rather than just cutting it in half, because then I'll end up with little bits left over from each wrap that I can use on my toes. And hopefully you've been looking at my pictures and you'll see what I mean by that, and how I'm able to use wraps on both fingers and toes and just really get the most out of it. Let's take your scissors and trim it off there. So you've got your wrap. And then you're going to want to heat it for about 3 to 5 seconds. I like to heat mine until I can just see it curling. Not like curling on itself, but just kind of curving a little bit, because that means it's getting soft, it's getting pliable, and that's when you can really add pressure to it on your nail and get a good seal. So then you're going to want to put it down on your nail. Don't put a lot of pressure at first, because you're going to want to make sure you've got it centered, you've got it right where you want it. So there, I've got it where I want it. And to seal it, I like to go and press from the cuticle edge down to the center. Do one firm push that way, and then start at the cuticle edge again and go around one side, and then go around the other side. So now you've prevented any air from getting trapped in there. You've got it nice and sealed around the edges. And just to make sure you get a really good seal, we're going to heat it again for another 3 to 5 seconds. And use your cuticle pusher. And then do the same process that I did with my hand, just do it with the cuticle pusher, just to make sure. So go down the center and then around the sides to make sure you get a good seal on the edges. So there's that. So now obviously there's a lot of excess that I need to trim off. There are 2 methods you can do for that. You can take a file, which is my preferred method, and file it. I'll show you that in a second. But you can also take your clippers and just clip it and barely clip off a little bit of your nail, so you have a nice smooth edge. But I like to file. So what I do is I start with the center of my nail, and I do one downward motion there, and then I come in from the sides, because you can see there's kind of like it folds, and you don't want it to lift up the corner edges. So I go down once that way, and then I go around from one side and then around to the other to just kind of bend it around the tip of your nail. And then you're going to file, and you're just going to file off the wrap. And I like to have it turned in just a bit towards my nail, so that I leave a very thin layer of my nail visible at the end, because I like to use my nails for stuff, peeling stickers off apples and popping open soda cans, and I like to use my nails. And so if you want your wraps to last the longest time possible, you might want to just expose a little bit of the tip of your nail on the end. So I'm just kind of going around, working it off. Just in a downward motion too. You don't want to go up, you don't want to go side to side, just in a downward motion. I think that's all just stuck, the excess is just stuck on my finger now. Oh yeah, totally done. Wipe off a little bit of the dust. And there you go. Perfect wrap. Perfect. So I'm going to talk to you just really quickly about some of the troubleshooting tips and tricks. I like to have on hand one of these cuticle trimmers, whatever they're called. Because if you put on a wrap and you accidentally put on a wrap that's too big, you don't want to rip it off, before you apply a lot of pressure, you can take your cuticle pusher and you can go around the sides and you put a firm downward pressure and then slide down the side of your nail. And so just like you would use it to trim excess cuticle, you can use it to trim excess wrap. But you need to make sure that your cuticle trimmer is really sharp. Some of the cheap ones don't always work really well for that and can snag the wrap. Just go slowly, keep an eye on what it's doing, and you can trim off the excess on the sides. So a couple of the issues that people find sometimes is rippling around the sides or the tips. And usually that's because the wrap was too large, and so you just want to try a size down, or there wasn't enough pressure applied, the seal wasn't good to begin with, and then went into dishes or something and water got in there and it started to ripple. If you get any lifting at the cuticle edge, that's usually because of oily nail beds. And so for that, you can try some of the tips I mentioned earlier about dish soap and just changing the way you prep your nails, and that can make a huge difference. So that is the basics on applying your wraps. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to email me or Facebook message me, or just, I don't know, smoke signal, whatever, however you want to get a hold of me. And I hope you love your Jamberry nail wraps as much as I do, and I look forward to seeing all your Jamberry manicures.